Hi, hello, I'm Hannah. Welcome to the Pages and Pearls knitting YouTube channel, which is the first time that I'm ever saying this because this is my first video on my very new channel. So welcome if you made it here. I've had several attempts of filming this, realized that I started babbling a lot when I wanted to introduce myself, so I'll try to keep it a bit shorter and jump sooner into the sort of classic, like, finished objects, current works in progress part, because I think the structure will make me a bit less nervous. And then in some other video I can introduce myself a little bit more once I've gained maybe a bit more confidence with the camera. Just a short introduction about myself. I'm Hannah. I am 29 years old. I recently moved to New York. I live in a small studio apartment together with my partner, and I hope the traffic noise won't cut through this video too much. I'm wearing a headphone just to see if the microphone maybe will be helpful at sort of recording my voice rather than the cars driving past. I'm originally from Germany, as you can maybe hear by the accent. I'm from Berlin, and I lived in the Netherlands for the last 6 years, I think, working on my PhD in neuroscience. I'm not completely finished yet. I'm still in the last months. And yeah, I'll introduce myself a bit more in depth maybe in a separate video. Just as like the corner, or like just to give you a few pointers on where I'm at with my knitting. I started knitting 2 years ago. I mainly worked on very simple projects like loop scarves. Started off with one of those We Are Knitters snood kits with the super chunky wool. I really enjoyed it back then, but for the past years I've always only knitted in like late autumn, winter to make small Christmas presents for my family, like mainly scarves actually. And this year in October, November, as I was preparing my transatlantic move, I found like some balls of yarn that I still had in my stash, and I was like, well, I don't want to give them away, I don't want to donate them. It doesn't make sense to store them in my parents' basement, so they have to come with me, and hopefully I'll get back into knitting and be able to use them. And actually, I did. So here we are. This time it stuck more. I got more enthusiastic about it and wanted to try out more things. So for the past month I've been knitting way more. There was a very heavy pre-Christmas season of making hats, beanies for friends and family again. And then I started a sweater. And I'm sitting here in this first finished object actually. So this is the sundby sweater from We Are Knitters. It's a kit that I ordered 2 years ago, I think. When I first got into knitting, it was around the time of my birthday, and my friends kindly gifted me a voucher. So I used that voucher, but then I didn't knit so much. So I still had like a sweater quantity of wool, the pattern, everything basically. So this Christmas I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's make this first sweater because you have everything for this at home, and then you can go crazy afterwards in a yarn shop and buy all other sorts of yarn, right? It's knit in this superwash merino yarn. I think it's called the Merry Wool. It's a worsted weight yarn, if I'm not mistaken. It's knitted on 5mm needles, so US 8, I think that is. And it's a bottom-up construction with raglan, decreases because you work from the bottom up, and you work basically the body in the round and then separate into front and back. You knit the sleeves separately, seam it together, and then you construct this folded, like double folded collar. Yeah, there's a little bit of short row shaping in the front. I think because of the short row shaping, probably mainly because of the short row shaping, it's listed as a more like advanced, beginner, intermediate pattern, but I found it mostly quite okay, difficulty-wise I mean. So it was actually a lot of fun to knit, except for the last part, where for some reason We Are Knitters, in the pattern instruction, there's just a mistake of how they tell you to pick up like all the stitches from the sleeves and from the front and back, and then start knitting the collar, which I luckily realized as I was reading it, so I didn't have to knit backwards too much. And then for some reason also the seaming of the raglan sleeves is basically just like, you know, like in the IKEA manuals, like these little schemes of how you put together the furniture. There's like one little cartoony version of how you do it, but it wasn't very clear to me. So I actually watched a few YouTube videos, seamed the sleeves with the body differently at first, with a more like sort of invisible line. Realized that I didn't like it, and then I finally understood how We Are Knitters wants you to do it, or how they instruct you to do it in the pattern. So I opened up one sleeve again, redid it, and now it's better. There's probably I wasn't like, there are some parts where I wasn't too neat, but overall I think it worked out quite well. It's a very soft material, very nice to wear on the skin. It turned out a little bit cropped for me, but I quite like that because I like to wear high-waisted jeans and skirts, and then I don't have to tuck too much in or tuck it in at all. So that's quite nice. So that's my first finished object, my first sweater. I can't believe it. I started it just after Christmas when I was in Berlin with my family. I actually also took it over New Year's. I met with some friends in a different city in Germany, so I took it on the train. I was knitting on the train. It was very peaceful. And then afterwards, on the flight over to the US, I was also knitting it on the plane. I managed to bring my knitting needles in my like hand luggage, so that was really cool. And then I finished it here, and I can't believe that this sweater has seen so much of the world already before being done. I think on Instagram, Ozetta, she's a knitwear designer, and she had a very nice post the other day about how knitting is such a slow process, and that every garment that she makes, or every pattern, garment, whatever she makes, is done over such a period of time that she knits in sort of like all these memories. And I found that a really nice picture, or like a really nice image. And it's true for this sweater as well. So I like that now as I see it, it gives me memories of the time when I was knitting it. Coincidentally, I also finished it basically the day I sent the next chapter of my dissertation that I'm currently writing for my PhD. I sent off that chapter to all my advisors the same day I finished the sweater, and I basically wrote the very first crude draft of that chapter just as I was starting the sweater. So this is basically my chapter 2 of my dissertation sweater, if you want. Yeah. This is, I don't know, this is cool. I knit a sweater, so first finished object. I will show other finished objects now. One of them I actually don't have here. My partner wanted a very simple, thin beanie hat in a neutral color, so I made him one in this color. I can maybe try to put in some footage of the hat, which is currently not here because he's wearing it when he went to work this morning. But yeah, this is the wool. It's alpaca wool blend, 50% of each. I think it's from Morocco, the brand. It's the Ultimate Alpaca, I think it's called. I really like this wool. I made a few other hats with it already. It has this like soft like fuzz around it. It's knit on 5mm needles, so US 8, I think that is. And my other finished object is a chunky hat that I made with all the leftovers, or almost all the leftovers, of the several hats and loop scarves that I made over the past few years. So I had like these little bits of scrap yarn lying around, and I wanted a really colorful chunky hat. I was in Berlin at the time still, it was raining and raining and raining, and it was dark, and I was like, well, let's bring some color into our lives. So I made this hat, took the scrap yarn that I had, see what fit together in my opinion, and then knitted on 10mm needles, that's US 15 I think, in the round, with a very simple pattern. I switched from one color to the next and only afterwards realized that obviously when you switch in the round you will have this edge. I don't know how you call that actually, but basically here you should see that whenever I switched, you can see that it doesn't line up super nicely. And afterwards I found that there's of course tutorials on how to avoid that. While I was seaming in the ends, I was trying to at least distribute it a little bit so that it wouldn't be too obvious. But yeah, I actually quite like it. It's warm, it's fun. It brings me joy when I see it and when I put it on because it's very colorful. I like the giant pom-pom that I made with the last bits of yarn that I had. And yeah, I think that's the hat. Those are all my finished objects at the moment. All the ones that I have here. Everything else was basically gifted away to friends and family. Yep. Let's get to my works in progress, which is actually just one. Okay, so I really like this project bag. My mom made it herself as a way of wrapping my Christmas present of I think 1 or 2 years ago, and I just like it as a project bag because it's nice and big enough for like anything that is bigger than like a hat or a sock. Not that I've knitted any socks yet. So what I'm currently working on is the marshmallow vest by Spektakelstrik. It's a Danish, I think it's from a Danish knitwear design brand. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's this very cute vest. I will put in some footage here. This very cute vest that is, I think, knit in mohair yarn. I saw a very cool picture of it by Emma's Knits on Instagram, where she used lots of mohair scraps to make this vest. I'm not a huge vest fan, I have to say, but when I saw that, I found it really cute, and then I thought about the different ways of like how I could combine it with my, with the pieces in my wardrobe, and I liked the idea suddenly. So I thought, let's try out a vest. But because I've never knit with mohair before, I didn't want to have my first mohair project to be like a, some like big project, because mohair yarn is a bit more expensive, and I'm a bit, I still have to see if I react sensitively to it, so I think it would be good to start off with a smaller project, maybe like a hat or so. So I looked for some different yarn, and I basically fell in love with this, I think you call it blown yarn, right? Like the way it's constructed. This blown yarn from Barocco. It's the yarn is Barocco mochi, like the sweet. And they have these like super cool like pastel colors with like really nice speckles in it. It's very soft. I think it's alpaca nylon merino blend, and it feels super nice, and is basically gives you a similar gauge to the one suggested in the pattern, which is like a really chunky mohair that they use there. So I got this for the main color. Instead of the stripes in the original pattern, I thought of making the body one color and then just having a different colored, like not sleeves, but like the armholes kind of, and collar and hem. This will be the main color for the body. Then I want to make the armholes in this yellow, also like, soft buttery yellow with speckles. And then the last part will be for the hem, which is this like green super cute green. I think so. The colors are plum, daylily, and green tea. And yeah, I basically want to look like a piece of cake. I don't know. To be honest, while I started knitting the body, I'm still not 100% sure if I like the gauge of this or not. If I think it's a bit too airy, maybe if I should have taken the yarn double or not. You tell me if you have an opinion about this. So I have made the back piece, like the top back piece, the shoulders, joined in the front, and now I'm knitting the front part. This is what it looks like so far. I like how the wool, what it looks like knitted up with all these speckles. I get a bit of like Taylor Swift Lover album cover vibes of this, you know, like the sky behind her, and I like it. I mean, I'm a huge Swiftie, so I like, yeah, you could say that it's a goal of mine in life to look like the Lover album cover because I just love the colors in there. So that's a plus for the yarn, but I'm not, Jesus, but I'm not entirely sure if it'll be too light and too like, you know, too airy. Then again, I don't think the yarn, like even taking it double, doesn't make it so much better. I knitted like another gauge swatch with the green wool because I don't need so much of it and I'm making a mess. It does look a bit denser, but even so, you can like see through quite a bit. And it's kind of the point, right? I mean, I don't know. If I mean, I don't have a big problem frogging this because I was just trying things out, and the nice thing is that you can always go back and make things better if you don't like them with knitting. But I don't think I will have enough wool if I need to hold the thread, the yarn double. So I would have to order more because my local yarn shop here doesn't carry that wool. I don't know. I think I will keep on knitting a bit because it knits up quite fast. It's knit on 7mm needles, which doesn't have a US equivalent, I think. And let's see. I think I'll continue until I'll join like the front and back piece. Put it on over like a piece of clothing that I would wear it over once it's done. And then I'll see how it looks like, if it's like too see-through or if I like the more lighter, airier look of it. Let's see. But that's the marshmallow vest that I'm working on. Hopefully by the next time I upload a podcast, I will have the finished object for you. And then I will be able to tell you which gauge I went for in the end. But yeah, leave some comments below if you have any sort of input on this. If you, I don't know if it was even very visible on the camera, but that's that. Yeah, this is going to be the marshmallow vest. The pattern itself so far, I think there's one small mistake in it that I found, but overall it's well explained. For me, it's the first time doing this sort of knitting a panel of the back, then separately forming the shoulders, joining the front pieces. I've also never done a provisional cast on before, which is new to me now, but it's all going quite well. So I think that's a pro for the pattern. That's what I'm mainly working on now. So next, I think I can get to my acquisitions, which are few because I don't want to build up like a huge stash because we just don't have the space for it. And yeah. So the first thing, I'll just go in order of, in the order that I bought them. The first thing that I bought was when I was still in Berlin, is this unspun wool by Wool Dreamers. I think the wool is called Mancha Lopis, so it's from Castilla-La Mancha in Spain, from the sheep that usually you get the milk off to make manchego cheese, which is a really nice cheese. Anyways, this is the unspun yarn, and it comes in these cakes with two plies, I think you would call them in this case, already like laid out next to each other. So basically, I think, so it's very fragile. Unspun wool is very fragile because it hasn't been, yeah, spun into its more stable state yet. And I found this, I wanted to make a cardigan, and I found this super nice traveler's cardigan by Ozetta that I talked about before. And she uses this exact, well, a different shade, but like this exact wool in the pattern. And I really liked the look of it. I found it in a wool shop in Berlin, and I just wanted to try it out because I like this color. But yeah, it's a very fragile yarn. I have made a gauge swatch with it, and you can see that, wait, let's see. You can see that it's sort of, yeah, it's really not square because the cast on, like, I was very careful in casting it on because it can rip so easily, and you really like can't pull it like as you would maybe with a normal with your normal yarn. You can't pull it because then it'll just disintegrate. So the cast on was very loose for me, but then once I started knitting, I got a bit more confident with it, and also saw that like when it's knit up, it's actually quite stable. So it got a bit better towards the top and a bit more on gauge actually. I want to make the traveler's cardigan with it. I haven't started yet. I was focusing basically on finishing the sweater, the sundby sweater, and I'm a bit intimidated still by the cast on because it was such a hassle with the swatch that I made. But I think I should just start. I really want a cardigan. I want a cardigan in this color. I haven't bought the buttons yet for it, but I already know more or less which ones I want, like a either like mother of pearl, like very simple buttons, or like a very simple like gold bronze, like, yeah, coin style button. I don't know how to describe it. So maybe I should just dare to get started. Yeah, it's honestly it's a really nice yarn actually. It's quite soft. It's not, I mean, it's not as soft as like the spun yarns or like the merino yarn that I'm wearing, merino wool that I'm wearing. But once it's knitted up, it's not scratchy. It's nice. And yeah, I think I'll be happy once I start this, but yeah, this sort of unspun wool is still intimidating me a little bit because you have to go really slowly. You have to unwind it, like you can't just yank the ball when you need more yarn. You have to unwind it, knit it up, unwind it some more. If you've knit with unspun wool before and you have some advice, let me know. And yeah, I hope this will be a cast on in the next video already. I don't think I'll be able to finish it. My plan is to upload videos like every 2 to 3 weeks. Let's see schedule-wise how well that will go. But yeah, let's see how far I get with this. But yeah, this is the Manchalopis in, I think it's just called Verde, so green, but I'll check it, and I'll try to leave like links and descriptions in the description bar below, so you can check out all the patterns and wool and everything that I'm talking about there. Then the next new acquisition is this yarn. By the way, I have everything basically wound up into cakes already or balls, because I don't have a yarn winder, and the local yarn shop where I go to, they spin the yarn for you, and I don't want to go through the hassle of doing it myself if they just do it. I bought this sock yarn, hand dyed. It's the first hand dyed yarn I think that I've bought. It's by Once Upon a Corgi, which now I think they have a different name. I will check it. I will also leave that in the description bar. Once Upon a Corgi is their Merry Cutie yarn, which is 75% superwash and merino and 25% nylon. It's 100 grams, and it's it was super pretty. I just fell in love with it when I was in the yarn shop, and I was like, well, I wanted to try knitting socks. Why not do that with a yarn that gives you a nice little color surprise every round, or maybe more often, maybe less often. I don't think it's self-striping yarn in the strict sense that, yeah. But it's super nice. It's like this pink purple base, I would say, and then you just have, I don't know, rainbow colors of everything in there. So you have like this super warm, like burnt orange almost, bottle green, nice bits of like blue and turquoise, yellow. I don't know, I just love how colorful this is. And I can't wait to knit my first sock with it. I'm planning to follow the vanilla sock pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady, I think she's called, designer. I've heard a lot of people talk about this as a good place to start, so yeah, let's see how it'll go. Maybe next time it'll be a cast on, I hope so. As I said, I don't have too many projects or too many things in my stash, so yeah, I want to finish things before I acquire things for the next project. My last recent acquisition is this yarn, which is the Barocco Mercado, I think it is. You can see that this is, I'm knitting with a lot of Barocco yarns. It's, I think, I've never seen them in Germany actually. I've seen them quite often here. And I really like their yarns so far. So I'm just trying out all the different options, and my yarn shop carries a lot of their wool, so that's also, yeah. So it's the Barocco Mercado in Ciruela, like cherry. And it's 100% Peruvian Highland wool. It's not quite worsted weight, I think. It's the one above. Chunky, I guess that is then. Bulky, chunky, I don't know. And I bought this to make a hat for a friend of mine. It was her birthday recently, and I told her that I would make a hat for her, and she could choose the color and the shape and the stitch pattern and everything. So it's a custom hat. And she wanted some reddish, brown, purplish wool. And we found this one. It was the last hank left that they had in the shop. They didn't know when the next one would be coming in. It was exactly the color that she wanted, and like walking through the shop with and comparing it to all the other colors, we didn't really find anything that was comparable. So I bought this. It's 100 grams. I hope it will be enough to make like a slightly slouchy beanie with a brim. But yeah, I just have to start and see how far I get, and if necessary, I can, I guess, wait for their resupply to come in, but I hope that won't be necessary, knock on wood, and that I can just, yeah, use this one up to make her hat. Let's see, I think I talked about everything. That's all I have at the moment. As you can see, I still have like lots of yarn leftovers from previous projects and a sweater quantity for like a striped sweater quantity of cotton yarn. But I'll talk about this in my next video because I'm not quite sure what to do with it. I started a project with it 2 years ago. I don't think I'm still feeling that project, so whatever I started, I think I'll frog it. But yeah, I'll talk about that in another video. So for this channel, it's called Pages and Pearls because I like books. As you can see, I like books a lot. I really like to read. I have an Instagram account that is mainly focused on books, so a Bookstagram account. Over there, I'm The Breakfast Books. I will also link it below. Still thinking of changing the name to have it more uniform across platforms. And I also really like writing, mainly rom-com. I mean, I love reading rom-com. I love writing rom-com. I haven't written in the last few months because I was busy with I'm busy writing my dissertation, so because I'm writing so much for work at the moment, it's very hard for me to get into the creative mind space of writing for myself. And also with the whole like transatlantic move, I didn't have a lot of time. But I love watching writing vlogs as well and see how people progress in their drafts. So my hope is that maybe I'll also venture into that, writing vlogs, when I pick up my draft again. That would be cool. If you're here, if you like this video, subscribe, give me a like, leave me a comment so my poor like rabbit heart can calm down a bit and realize that this was fine. In the future, yeah, as I said, I'm gonna try to upload a new knitting podcast maybe like every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how much time I have. Thank you for watching. Thank you for stopping by this tiny corner of the internet, and I hope I'll see you soon again for the next knitting podcast. Until then, I hope that you have a super nice day, that your wrists are staying warm, your knitting projects are all going according to plan and giving you joy. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye.